Okay. So today we're having our spring semester kickoff for XFC. We're really going to talk about, the format of the spring and things that the teams will need to do. And then at the very end, after we've discussed all of that, um, we're just going to have a discussion, an open discussion between teams and the organizers, whether that is for help, if you had specific questions, but more specifically, what we'd like to talk about and potentially see, if people are willing, is a progress update just on what you've been able to do so far, even if it's just getting the game running. We sort of want to gauge progress for all the teams to see where we're at. So to start off, some key info. Some of this will be rehashed from the competition introduction presentation that we did before winter break. We're going to go back over some of that just so it's fresh in everybody's minds. But the first thing is qualifying. So we are going to say that teams have to qualify, and really what that means is you have to give us code that runs. That's pretty much it. We just want to make sure that your code will execute. It will call your AI agent, even if the agent at this point is nothing, just a blank function that passes, doesn't do anything. That's fine. We just want to make sure that your code as structured can be plopped. We can grab your code, plop it into our environment, and run it successfully. That is what is detailed in qualifying. Um, in order to make the final competition, you will need to qualify just by doing that. That's all. We'll send the submission details everybody a few weeks before qualifying. Um, it will involve mainly your repositories that you set up to store your code. Essentially, we will just need you to share those repos with us, and we'll tell you what standards you need to meet in your code such that we can just grab the right files. We'll give you all those details. We'll be in constant communication on Slack. So no need to freak out about that now. The final AI agents and code will be due on April 4th to us. That must be in a repo and it must meet the standards that we'll give you. We'll give you more of those details when we get a little bit closer, but really it's going to be similar to qualifying in that you'll have your final trained agent in your repo, and we'll need to know which one it is. Don't worry, we'll send you those standards, and you need to make sure we can access it on that date because that's when we're going to go grab everybody's final version and integrate everything to be ready for the competition. The competition will be the Saturday after that. It's on April 9th. We held it on a Saturday last year just to ensure that most people could come. So that's why we're doing that again this year. If there are issues with that, we can potentially move it, but we will need to set that up soon. And one reason why I'm hesitant to move it off of Saturday, I hate to take up people's Saturdays, but typically days during the week don't work as well. And this is one of the reasons is that we expect a relatively full day. It's not going to be super long, but right now we have budgeted about 4.5 hours. So the current schedule for competition day is that morning we will have student presentations, and this is currently we're allocating 5 minutes per team. And really, you just need to create presentations that show your solution and results. We will send you an entire template, or maybe not an entire template, but we'll send you the entire format and what will be required for each slide. So it should be pretty structured, so you don't need to put too much brain effort into it. Right after that, at noon, will be the competition live stream. The organizers are going to host this, and it's sort of going to be like an esports event where we will be showing your solutions playing the game. And we also may want to interview or talk to some of the team members while their AI agent is playing. And so we'll need you to identify a spokesperson. You don't need to tell us or anything. You just need to make sure that that person is available on that day and has a setup such that they can do that. But really all it is, we'll talk about things that happen while it's playing the game and talk about, what you experienced while training your agent and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun and should be a good time. You can watch the live stream from last year, and we did similar things. Then after that, we're going to have simply closing statements, and we may have some preliminary results, meaning some of the results are pretty instantaneous, but obviously we're not going to have all of the results to declare winners right then. However, we will do that in the week after the competition. And so everybody will be notified of final results and prizes no later than April 22nd. So we will make sure to get all the information out by that date, and then the actual prizes themselves will be distributed after that. Oops, there we go. So some more details on the format of the final competition. Each team's solution will be evaluated in the game, obviously. There are going to be multiple scenarios that have not been seen by your AI agents during training. This includes both single and double agent scenarios, probably only a handful of double agent ones, simply just because of the run times involved, but definitely lots of single vehicle scenarios. The scenarios themselves, in general, these will be chosen, they're created and chosen by us to elicit certain behaviors or performance from your agents. So we want to see how your agents handle certain situations. So we're going to have the scenario to reflect that. We will have your asteroids and agents in a number of different initial states. They basically could be anywhere. So that is how you're going to have to train your system. For explainability, there will be judges that will assess the quality of the explanations being given by your system and the presentation of that. So they will be scored based on some of the following criteria, and maybe others, including things like ease of understanding, the quality of the explanations, which is a big thing, the sensibility of actions from explanations, and innovation. So how innovative is your explanation interface? And by explanation interface, I simply mean how do you represent the explanations themselves? Obviously, the bare minimum is just printing out statements to the command line. But there are other options out there. There's been some really interesting work people have done for representing those explanations. So that is, something you guys will have to represent. Again, the solutions will be run through dedicated scenarios for showing those explainable behaviors, and then the judges will score them based on that. This is sort of an example of what we mean when we're talking about explainability. So let's say you have this situation where you have your ship, and then you have an asteroid that's coming right at it. You may want to have an explanation for, let's say the system, everybody else is stationary at the beginning. You may want to understand why the ship, for instance, if it doesn't try to avoid this or it doesn't automatically engage this one, maybe we want to see an explanation for why. Maybe it considered this asteroid to be a higher threat. Not sure, but those are some examples of why we would want to see an explanation for some of the AI's behavior. Again, we want to see meaningful statements from your explainability method. We don't just want a wall of text being printed out. Obviously, if it's in paragraph form, that's going to be really hard to parse, especially if you're trying to do any sort of explanation thing in real time. And this is the essential idea is it should allow the judges to understand the decisions the controller is making in simple scenarios. The scenarios shouldn't be too complicated, but they will represent situations somewhat like this, where there's some situation that's put in, maybe it makes one decision, maybe it makes another, but then we want to understand why it made the decision that it did. Yeah, and that's about it. This is relatively open-ended as far as how you present the explainability, but remember that it's going to involve those linguistic labels that you have on your membership functions and then your inference rules. and then maybe additional information beyond that for which ones are contributing to your actions. The overall scoring of the competition. So again, this will be based on the number of asteroids hit during all scenarios evaluated. There will be, and by the way, this is the performance part of the scoring. So this is just running through the scenarios and getting their scores. And so it's based on the total number of asteroids hit. However, if there are ties between multiple teams' solutions for the number of asteroids hit, there will be a sequence of tiebreakers that are enacted after that, such that the first tiebreak will include accuracy. So that will be the number of asteroid hits you had divided by the total shots fired. And then after that, an additional tiebreaker, if there's still a tie after that, which I don't anticipate happening, but maybe. The next tiebreaker after that is computational efficiency. And so that is simply the average time to evaluate your FIS, or FISs, I should say, throughout its runs. And so that will determine the total score. The total scoring of the entire team. So this isn't just the performance-based scoring, but the total score that contributes to winning the prizes will be the competition performance, which comes from this. Also, the explainability portion given by our panel of judges, and then also the final presentations. And so we have these amounts for each of those. Again, you'll get guidance on the format of the final presentation. We may increase the time allotment. It just depends on how many teams qualify. If that happens, though, where we have a lot fewer teams, we may adjust both the time you have to present, but then also this start time. If it's such that we can start later, we might start it a bit later, but we'll deal with that after qualifying. The competition will be live streamed. We will have a live stream on either YouTube or maybe Twitch, but probably YouTube. That's what we did last year. The format will be somewhat similar to like an esports event. We'll have the organizers hosting and narrating. If we're interviewed, it'll be through WebEx or some other service like that. The reason for this is that it's not that easy to have other people talk during the stream itself on YouTube. And so what we might have to do is have another meeting software open like WebEx or something like that, so that we can hear the interview happening over the stream. We'll work on figuring that out. We'll make sure everybody has whatever details they need before that day, though. Again, and if some team just doesn't want to talk, if for whatever reason they just don't want to talk or be interviewed during their portion of the competition, that's fine too. The stream, however, will be recorded, and later on it will be hosted on our YouTube channel. There might be slight edits, there edits happen quite frequently for our recorded seminars and everything else. But just so you know, it will be recorded. And now I'd like to open it up and we can have basically an open Q&A and discussion. I would like to talk about team progress, competition updates, things like that. Is there a need for additional help seminars? And if so, what topics would you guys like them to be held on? Or any questions you might have for us. And so with that, I'd like to open it up to everyone so we can talk about stuff. Let me take a look at the list. Well, it looks like Alex is the only participating student on the call at the moment. Hello, Alex. So based on that, I'm going to pick on him a little bit and ask how his team is doing.
Mic test, is everybody can hear me okay?
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah. Hi everybody. I'm here with Professor Bede. Alexander, unfortunately, just last second had a severe, he's okay, allergic reaction, which he's taking
Wow.
medication for and everything, and he's gonna be okay. He's just not in shape for the presentation, unfortunately, to join us.
No problem. Hope he's okay.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, he is. Thank you. Or last we heard, he's okay. It's not something that hasn't dealt with before, apparently. But yes, yeah. So I'm here with Professor Bede. Thank you for all the work in the presentation. I can share a little bit. Eric was gonna go over some of the his FIS system code, but I'm okay sharing with you some of our dodge mechanic in action. I don't know. I'll accompany that with a little bit of explanation. Do I have permission to share screen right now?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Okay, great. Um, start sharing. Okay, great. Let me know the moment you guys are able to see my screen.
Yep, we can see it now.
Yeah, as part of the as part of our design, we have several behavior categories. We have several behavior categories and they're sectioned off from each other.
Hmm.
Game will be switching between different states, but we have our dodge state in a pretty respectable state. Um, Again, without going too much into detail, because I do assume that other teams will be able to see this video after the fact, even if they're not here today. Um, the system has, hold up, I'm going to increase the number of asteroids there. Let me know if you can see everything as well when the game is running. We uh, we do have several currently magic numbers, but are indeed variables that are going to be able to be tweaked by the FIS system once it's plugged into this in order to be able to turn some knobs. Um, and we have our dodge mechanic. Oh my gosh, of course, everything is just going to group up on the right side. This is testing, right? Um, but no,
So
we've
to be
had
clear, so
uh-huh,
it has multiple behaviors it can switch between, but right now you're just forcing it to only
right
do dodge.
right now we're just well right now, yes, the only one we have in a place that we're happy showing off is dodge. We're going to be continue working on shooting as well as a breakout behavior. If we're surrounded and certain conditions are met, then it's gonna kind of do a combination of both. And I think that's as much as they feel comfortable sharing team secrets. But
Yeah, no
uh,
worries.
yeah, but no, but this thing has run with all three lives. I'd say over half an hour. Was clocked once. Just happily
By
dodging
by simply dodging.
by simply dodging.
Awesome.
It's gotten out of some really crazy situation. Ah, this is where he died. No, that's for sure. That was a four-way surround. And yeah, and I wanted to kind of ask about some of the explainability because that's something that we're currently working on right now.
Hmm.
It's definitely been a challenge because so we don't have access to the rendering primitives like in the game, right? Like we can't draw onto the screen ourselves from our controllers. We
Right.
can't, right? I've tried different things, kind of like launching a side version of Arcade with a transparent background in order to try to create an overlay where we can render to. Also using some other uh, libraries that create transparency windows in Python. And so we're experimenting because we're kind of trying to create an overlay where we can see, we're going to draw, our idea was originally to draw these just symbols like that little arrow you had, vectors, zones of
Right, right.
interest, everything, etc. It's been very challenging. And so
So,
go for it.
I remember someone asked Brandon about doing this. I don't recall if it was you or not. Um, Brandon being one of the other organizers, Brandon Kunkel. Um, and he had mentioned that there were ways to do some of that.
Okay.
But let me talk to him because maybe there's a quick helper thing that we can build that might
Okay.
make it a lot easier on people. One issue and one reason why it's so difficult is that we haven't built a lot of that stuff because we wanted to leave it open-ended. Of course,
Hmm.
that means more work for the people in the competition. But yeah, that's one reason why. And working within the arcade environments can be a bit of a pain. So yeah, apologies.
No, no worries. It's definitely been a challenge. And I was able to launch a transparent window using this take hinter and some other libraries, but something always happens. Either the game hangs or something else whenever I launch this other process from the controller. I wasn't sure if it was due to like some kind of like some of the asynchronous nature of the setup environment that you guys have, or I can sit here and kind of come up with theories about what's happening all day, but it's just been challenging. So if you have any ideas or tips on how we could create this, that would be incredibly useful.
Okay. Um, Off the top of my head, not particularly. I would have to go dig into the code to give you specific examples.
Okay.
But it might be something as simple as we add in, at the very basic level, we could add in, methods for certain classes to be able to just like print stuff out to terminal. Maybe we do something like that. Maybe we can build something else. I'll have to talk to the organizing team about that. Because we don't want to pigeonhole teams' solutions into doing one thing.
hmm
But at the same time, we want to make it as easy as possible for you guys, within reason.
Yeah, no, that would be great. I mean, if we could, for this, whatever, press a button and we get text to screen, as well as just being able to draw, lines and circles, like that would be more than enough for be able to for us to make something. But I understand that you don't want to pigeonhole people to using solutions, but at least I myself, like our team, has had found this really challenging. And if yeah, any help, or if you have or even if you just know of a library that works really well for this, or something that you've seen used before, or anything that you can share that you feel comfortable sharing with us to kind of like guide us in that, then that would be really helpful.
Well, from my personal experience, I wouldn't say that there's a library for it.
Okay.
Um, Typically, it depends on what you're trying to do with explainability. To some
Yeah.
people in the AI world, uh, explainability for things like a convolutional neural net might be a heat map or something like that, showing like where the CNN is focusing its attention or what is mattering as far as the input space, like what pixels are contributing the most to the output. In
Right.
terms of a dynamic control system like we're doing right now, it's not as easy a lot of the times to visualize that.
Right.
You could certainly create a heat map based on like where it moved throughout this scenario or something like that, but that doesn't necessarily tell you about the quality of the controller itself. And so then we're probably going to be looking at specific situations that happen
hmm
um, over maybe short time frames. So you don't need to worry about, thousands of time steps, but maybe it's, over a subset of those, the entire simulation time, and then how to represent those. So I've seen word clouds. I've seen straight up just print out the text. I've seen like a cumulative thing that was basically representative of a heat map, and sort of the same idea as a word cloud. There's lots of different things out there, but really you want to narrow in on what is contributing to your output and the linguistic rules associated with that, and then be able to show that for whatever either single time step or sequence of time steps that we're interested in.
Right. I think we were going for visual and we were going for real time, and that's been the
Okay.
challenge. Another thing that we were considering too, or well, that I just spoke with one of my professors, is we can output the state of the game onto an external file, and then kind of feed that through something that we make, like a second arcade window, where basically we could replay what happened in the game with our added elements for visual, understanding. Again, just things we're considering, just because getting it to be visual and live at the same time has just been challenging.
Right.
But yeah, but
And
if you got, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's completely fine if you want to do that. I know it's kind of annoying to save that data off and then use it again, but that is acceptable.
Okay. Yeah, if that would
Um,
work. Okay, great.
but yeah, I will set up a meeting with the rest of the organizers and we
Mm-hmm.
will go through the code and see what we are both able and willing to do to
Yes.
help you guys out.
Sounds great. That'd be amazing. Thank you so much.
Sure. Um, yeah, your avoidance stuff looks pretty good so far. Um, I was hoping we'd have more teams show up today, but that tends to be the case that we get a handful and then everybody else watches the recording. Um, but yeah, I'm excited. Looks good. And if there aren't any other questions, comments, or things to discuss, I think we can wrap up. Javier and Lynn, did you guys have anything else to add?
Based on what I saw, Alex, I think you're on the right track. Keep pushing. You're doing great work, and I'm sure Barnabas is appreciating all this. And well, thank you very much for participating. And to those that are listening the recording, if you have any questions or anything, remember that we have the general chat in this Slack, and you can always ask anything else there or whatever you need.
I think that sums it up pretty well.
Thank you.
If I can ask, was that behavior learned? You mentioned you had magic numbers, so I assume you had some sort of learning process. But I was just curious if it had learned any of that behavior so
No,
far.
so it hasn't learned that yet. That is just simple like game avoidance code, I want to say, call it.
Okay.
Yeah, but a lot of sorry, I'm walking that tightrope between what do we want to say and what do we want to keep.
No, you're fine. You can just
A
leave it at
lot,
that if you want.
no, it's okay. A lot of what determines how it's dodging has been built in such a way that the Fizz is going to be able to tweak with it and learn
Gotcha.
how to better dodge, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
If I'm
Yep.
saying that correctly. Okay, great.
Makes sense. All right.
And I just wanted to ask if you could, like, how many more teams are competing? Just because we are curious to see.
Javier, what's the number of teams?
The total number, I think, originally it was around 13, if I'm not wrong, or maybe less than 13 for sure. I'm not sure how many of those are continuing, but based on what I've seen in the Slack, yours is definitely one of the most active teams in Slack, and yeah. But I'm curious to see how many teams make submission to the first milestone. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Just curiosity. We don't find. Just out of curiosity to see.
Makes sense. Yeah, no worries.
Yep. And then qualifying will be the time when we'll find out how many people will actually be in the final competition.
Yes,
so
yes.
I'm sure it won't be everyone.
We'll share that information as well.
Hopefully.
Everybody.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. I will have to go. So thanks everybody for the.
No problem. Thanks, Barnabas.
Thanks.
Have a good one, everybody.
Thank you so much
right.
for the answers, and I appreciate any follow up, Tim, about what we just spoke about. And everybody have a great day.
Yeah.
Have a nice one, everybody. Thanks,
get
Alex.
back with you on
Thanks,
Slack.
Alex.
Great.
See you soon, Alex.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.